You can solve problems at work your boss cannot touch. You can outthink almost anyone in the room. Yet your bank account still looks like a disaster. Why do the smartest people stay broke? Here is the brutal truth. Your intelligence is not making you rich. Right now, it is keeping you broke. Today I am showing you the single mental shift that flips intelligence from a trap into a wealth-building machine. This is not about working harder. This is about thinking like wealth builders. Meet Sarah. Straight A student her entire life. Everyone said she would be successful, brilliant at everything she touched. 3 years after college, she is still broke. Not because she lacks ability, but because she has been researching the perfect side hustle for 18 months without starting anything. She has compared dropshipping to coaching to freelancing to content creation. She has joined 12 Facebook groups. She has watched hundreds of YouTube videos. She has bookmarked 67 articles about passive income. Meanwhile, her friend who barely graduated high school launched a simple cleaning service 6 months ago. No business plan, no market research. Just started knocking on doors. She is now making $8,000 a month. Sarah has more knowledge about business than her friend ever will, but her friend has something Sarah does not have: the ability to act with incomplete information. This is the story of every smart person who stays broke. They mistake preparation for progress. Here is what is actually happening in your brain. You see a business opportunity. Your first instinct is not to act. Your first instinct is to research. You spend weeks comparing business models. You analyze profit margins. You study competition. You create spreadsheets with every possible scenario. You join online communities to ask the same questions everyone else asks. And then you do absolutely nothing. While you are researching the perfect business idea, someone else starts an imperfect business and begins making money. They do not know everything you know, but they know something you do not know. Action beats analysis every single time. Your brain has been trained to collect information like a digital hoarder. You think more knowledge equals more safety. But here is the trap. There is no amount of research that will eliminate risk from starting a business. Smart people stay broke because they confuse studying for doing. They think if they just learn one more strategy, watch one more tutorial, read one more case study, then they will be ready to start. But ready never comes. While you are analyzing the ideal business model, people with half your intelligence are starting messy businesses and figuring it out as they go. While you are researching your target market, entrepreneurs are talking to actual customers and getting paid. Your intelligence has become a prison. It shows you every way something can fail. It whispers that you need more information before you can start. It keeps you stuck in learning mode while wealth builders are stuck in earning mode. Here is what nobody tells you about getting rich. Wealthy people do not start with perfect information. They start with good enough information and improve as they go. When a wealthy person sees a business opportunity, they do not ask if they have enough information to guarantee success. They ask if they have enough information to take the first step profitably. Poor people think they need to see the entire business plan before they start. Rich people know they only need to see the first customer to start building. Here is the millionaire mindset shift that changes everything. Uncertainty is not your enemy. Uncertainty is where profit lives. Every single successful entrepreneur I have studied started their business when the outcome was uncertain. They launched products without knowing if customers would buy. They started services without knowing if demand existed. They built businesses without knowing if they would succeed. But here is what they did know. They knew that waiting for certainty is the same as waiting forever. Smart people who stay broke see incomplete information as a reason to stop. Smart people who get rich see incomplete information as a competitive advantage. While you are researching, they are testing. While you are analyzing, they are earning. The wealthy understand something that school never taught you. You do not learn your way to wealth. You earn your way to wealth. When Sarah Blakely started Spanx, she did not have a fashion background or business degree. She had an idea and $5,000. When Pat Flynn got laid off, he did not research online business for months. He created a study guide for architects and started selling it immediately. Rich people have a different relationship with failure. People who stay broke see failure as proof they should have researched more. People who get rich see failure as data that makes their next decision better. So why do wealthy people embrace uncertainty while you run from it? Because they know that every day you spend researching instead of testing is another day someone else captures the market you were thinking about entering. So how do you break out of this trap? There is a 3-step system I call the action threshold method, and once you see it, you will never approach business decisions the same way again. The action threshold method has 3 simple steps that turn your intelligence from a research tool into a profit tool: information threshold, risk boundary, and action trigger. Step 1 is information threshold. Before you research anything, you ask yourself this question: what is the minimum information I need to test this idea with real customers? Not the minimum information to guarantee success, the minimum information to test profitably. Here is an example. You want to start a freelance graphic design business. Your perfectionist brain wants to research pricing strategies, competitor analysis, portfolio development, client acquisition funnels. But the millionaire brain asks a different question: what do I need to know to get my first paying client? The answer is simple. You need to know what service you offer and how to find one person who needs that service. That is it. That is enough information to start earning while you learn everything else. Step 2 is risk boundary. You ask yourself this question: what is the maximum amount I can afford to lose while I test this business idea? This is not about losing money. This is about removing the fear that keeps you paralyzed. When you know exactly how much you can afford to risk, your brain stops imagining catastrophic scenarios. For a service business, maybe your risk boundary is $200 for a simple website. For a product business, maybe your risk boundary is $500 for initial inventory. For a coaching business, maybe your risk boundary is $0 since you can start with just knowledge and communication. Once you set your risk boundary, you can act with confidence because you know the worst-case scenario is manageable. Step 3 is action trigger. You set a specific deadline to stop researching and start testing with real customers. No more analysis allowed after this deadline. Here is how this works. You say, I will research this business idea for exactly 1 week. On Friday at 5 p.m. I will contact my first potential customer and attempt to make my first sale, no matter what. The deadline forces your brain to stop collecting information and start making money. It turns your intelligence from an analysis tool into an action tool. Smart people hate deadlines because they always feel like they need more time to prepare. But wealthy people love deadlines because they know that imperfect action beats perfect inaction every single time. The action threshold method works because it uses your intelligence strategically instead of letting your intelligence use you. You research with purpose instead of researching from fear. Most people research to avoid making decisions. You research to make better decisions faster. Here is exactly how to use the action threshold method starting this week. I am going to walk you through 3 common scenarios so you can see exactly how this works. Scenario 1. You want to start a coaching or consulting business, but you have been researching for months without getting your first client. Apply information threshold. Ask yourself, what is the minimum I need to know to help my first client get results? The answer is you need to know one specific problem you can solve and one person who has that problem. That is 1 day of research maximum. Apply risk boundary. Decide how much you can afford to spend while you test this business. Start with $0 since coaching requires no upfront investment. This removes the fear of financial loss completely. Apply action trigger. Set a deadline. By Sunday at 6 p.m., I will contact 5 people who might need my help and offer to solve their problem for free in exchange for a testimonial. Write this deadline down and tell someone about it for accountability. Scenario 2. You want to start an online business selling products, but you keep researching different product categories without launching anything. Apply information threshold. What is the minimum I need to know to test if people will buy my product? You need to know what problem your product solves and where to find people who have that problem. You do not need to understand every aspect of e-commerce before you make your first sale. Apply risk boundary. How much can you afford to spend testing your product idea? Maybe it is $300 for initial inventory and a basic website. Maybe it is $100 to create a digital product and test demand. Apply action trigger. By the end of this month, I will create a simple landing page and attempt to get 10 people to buy my product or sign up for early access. If people buy, I will fulfill orders and grow. If nobody buys, I will pick a new product and repeat the process. Scenario 3. You want to start a service business, but you have been analyzing your local market and competitors for weeks without talking to a single potential customer. Apply information threshold. What is the minimum I need to know to book my first customer? You need to know what service you provide and how to contact people who need that service. You do not need a perfect understanding of your market before you start serving customers. Apply risk boundary. How much can you afford to spend on your first customer? Maybe you start by offering your service for free to build testimonials. Maybe you charge a small amount to test pricing. Keep your initial investment under $200. Apply action trigger. By next Friday, I will contact 20 potential customers and book at least one paid job or free trial. The goal is not to have a perfect pitch. The goal is to start the customer acquisition cycle. Here is your accountability system. Write down your information threshold, risk boundary, and action trigger for one business idea. Share it with someone who will check on your progress. When your brain tries to convince you that you need more research, remind yourself that successful entrepreneurs build businesses with imperfect information. You are not trying to avoid all mistakes. You are trying to learn faster than you analyze. Here is your wealth building challenge for this week. Pick one business idea you have been researching forever. Apply the action threshold method and get your first customer by Sunday. If you want to start coaching, contact 5 potential clients this week. If you want to sell products, create a simple landing page and drive traffic to it. If you want to start a service business, knock on doors until you book your first customer. The goal is to break the analysis paralysis cycle. Stop researching. Start testing. Comment below with your business idea and deadline. Tell me what first step you are taking this week. This creates accountability and proves to other smart people that starting is possible. Your intelligence combined with action is unstoppable. Your intelligence without action keeps you broke. This week, you join the people who test ideas instead of the people who research ideas forever. You now know why your intelligence has been keeping you broke instead of making you rich. You have been using your brain as a research tool instead of using it as a business building tool. The action threshold method changes everything. You are no longer someone who researches forever and starts never. You are becoming someone who researches strategically and tests immediately. This is exactly how successful entrepreneurs think. They know that imperfect action beats perfect inaction every single time. They understand that businesses are built through doing, not through knowing. Your transformation starts the moment you set your first action threshold, the moment you define your risk boundary, the moment you create your action trigger and actually follow through with real customers. Every day you spend researching instead of testing is another day your income stays at zero instead of growing through actual business activity. Every week you spend analyzing business models is another week someone else starts the business you were thinking about. Here is what nobody tells you about getting rich. Your financial future is not determined by how much you know about business. Your financial future is determined by how quickly you can turn business ideas into paying customers. If you want more tools like this that turn your intelligence into wealth building power, subscribe to this channel right now. I decode the exact mental frameworks that successful people use and turn them into practical tools you can implement immediately. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell because every video gives you another psychology-backed tool for building real wealth. This is not motivation content. This is transformation content for people who are serious about getting rich. You are no longer someone who gets stuck in analysis paralysis. You are someone who takes action with incomplete information because you know that is where profit lives. Successful entrepreneurs do not wait for perfect conditions. They create wealth in imperfect conditions. Starting right now, that is exactly what you do too. Your intelligence plus action is unstoppable. Go prove it.